did do many auditions for that show. Mad Men was a pilot written by Matthew Weiner, who had had a lot of success writing for The Sopranos, which was the biggest, most important show on television at the time. So it would have been around 2005 or 2006, right around in that zone. And it was for AMC, who had, up to that point had really not done a lot of original programming. It was mostly a network that was about showing old movies, and that was their goal. But they, at a certain point, decided they wanted to get into original programming, and they bought the script, wanted to make it. So it was being cast out of New York City, and I lived in Los Angeles, so I didn't know any of the New York casting directors. And, they didn't know me. So they had come out to Los Angeles to read some people and meet some people. And the first audition that I had for it was in February, I think. It must have been around then because it was raining. And it was pouring rain in Los Angeles. And the audition was in Santa Monica, and I live on the other side of town. So anybody that's ever driven in Los Angeles in the rain knows that whatever time it would take you, triple it. And so it took me about an hour and a half to get to from where I live in Los Feliz to Santa Monica, and I just thought, this is ridiculous. This is so long, and I thought, okay, but I really loved the script, and I really wanted to meet it. And it was at some place that I had never heard of. It was some advertising agency that I didn't know. Like, this is weird. All of this stuff is weird. None of this is regular. So eventually I find where I'm supposed to go, and I find where I can park legally and not get towed away. And I walk into this advertising agency, and there's some audition for a commercial, and it's very weird. It doesn't look like a television audition at all. And they said, okay, sit over there. And I'm sitting on a couch not unlike these, and next to some 17-year-old kid who I think is there to audition for like a juice commercial or something. And I'm the only one there that's auditioning for this show. And I think, this is so weird. Is this even a real thing? So I met the casting directors, who were Kim, Misha, and Beth Bowling. Met with them, and they read me for the part. And what I realized was it was very, very early in the process. So it was what is known in the business as a pre-read, which is basically you just read with the casting directors. They want to meet you and make sure that you're right for the part, that you aren't a psychopath, that you can, put two words together and not hit your head on the boom, and they basically want to see if you're for real or if you're not. And so it's mostly a weeding out process. So it's for people who have no credits. It's for people who they've never heard of. It's for people, it's the first biggest group of people that they then cut, in half or 2/3. Don't even make it past that. And it's a step that I had, at that point in my career, usually skip, because I worked and I have a reel and a IMDb page, and I have things that people have seen. But because these casting directors were from New York, they had never seen me, so they wanted to meet me. So that was my first audition, and it apparently went very well. Because over the next week, I was called back to that same place in Santa Monica 3 or 4 more times to then meet more and more of the people involved with the process. Matthew, Alan Taylor, who directed the pilot, Mike Uppendahl, who was Matt's kind of assistant, who then directed quite a few episodes of the show in success, and more people. And I'm meeting more and more people, and there are fewer and fewer people who are being considered for this part. And when I go into that same couch and in that same waiting room, now the people there are people who I'm starting to recognize, and people who are famous, and people who have been on television, who've been successful on television, who have had their own shows, who have won awards. So it's getting more and more daunting. But I still felt very confident in my not only ability, but just the fact that I was very right for the part.
Why?
It's hard to say. It's just something about the part, and something about the way the role sat on me, and the way the words came out of my mouth, and the way that I I connected with it, felt very natural, felt like a good fit. And I think that Matthew recognized that as well early on. And Alan had to be convinced a little bit. Everyone at AMC had to be convinced a lot. They wanted somebody who was a bankable, recognizable person. But I think Matthew realized that part of the show is that there's an air of mystery about who is this person. I mean, it's right there in the pilot. He's not who he says he is. So somebody with a relatively recognizable persona, at least a Q rating or whatever you would say, I think would maybe play against the dramatic effect of the role. So very fortunately, I was able to Matt was able to win that argument. But it took not only that whole next week. Eventually, they went away and auditioned hundreds of other people. Matt kept fixating on me. Then I came out to New York to meet all of the AMC people, and that was its own dog and pony show, and it took a little while longer. It was basically over the space of a month, and I had never had that experience. Mostly when you audition for a show, you find out within a few days whether you got it or not, because that's how TV works. That process is very fast. There's a lot of turnover. This was excruciating, and I had to come back in and come back in and come back in, and again at every point, it just takes one bad audition or one wrong step or wrong-footed move, and they think, oh well, maybe he's not the right guy. So you have to be consistent, and you have to be consistently right, which is a good lesson. That's kind of how series television works too. You have to maintain a sense of consistency in your portrayal of the character, or it won't work.